We're going to dive right in with the top 5 teams, and we're going to start with the University of Texas. Erik, before we get to some video examples from Texas, will you just describe real quick what is a second step set?
Second step set is, with our pin hitters, they're loaded on their left. Right-hand attackers, they're loaded hard on their left. I think there's some variance on how, where they are in that left step, whether they're leaning into it, they're on it, or they're getting out of it. But basically, in a 4-step approach, they're hard on their second step, getting into their step close as the ball is being set.
Perfect. All right, we're going to watch some videos examples right now from the University of Texas second step sets. And Erik, as we watch some of this, just tell us what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think with us, we've always been pretty conscious about what we think we're able to do and what we're able to do. We want those two things to line up. And so obviously there's 2 components of this. You need a setter that can run the offense that fast. And then you need attackers that are good at attacking it. And I don't know, that varies a little bit year to year. It varies a little bit from attacker to attacker. You can see these are our outsides in transition, that they're hard and rolling through the left side attack. We tend to have pretty physical pin hitters. So we're really conscious about not taking swings away at the expense of speed, meaning that we don't want to run it so fast that they can't be long and extended and hitting at a high contact point. So I don't know. You'll see on our left side, our attackers are kind of rolling through that left step. They're on it pretty hard. And then you'll see probably a little quicker tempo to our right side with Molly.
Yeah, we're going to see that right now.
Yeah. So she's 6'5". She's not quite as physical or dynamic getting off the floor, meaning that she's not jumping quite as high as our lefts. But she does a good job of extending and reaching to ball. So we felt like we could run things really faster. She has great range, good vision. So you can see that she's even more through that second step. She's kind of almost exiting that second step with that tempo. We really played with how fast we could get it going to her through the last couple of years, and how comfortable and how good she could be hitting it with that kind of range and tempo.
So Lee, with your physical attackers on the pins, maybe describe or talk to us about how you differentiate between I don't know how I want to describe it, speed and trajectory. Oftentimes coaches feel like speed means I'm firing that thing on a flat rope to the pin. Obviously, with some of the more physical athletes, the shape probably has to be a little different. And so how do you guys talk about that? And with your physical hitters, how are you dialing that in? And is it different for each of your hitters?
Yeah, we try not to create too much difference between hitters. I think that you get into some interesting issues. I don't know. I think the more variance you have hitter to hitter, the harder it is to replicate over long periods of time throughout your whole team. And so we try to come up with one tempo. We try to be real consistent with that tempo. And you're spot on. It's not this flat rope ball that's going to hit the back wall if someone's not attacking it. It's got some shape to it. And so I don't know. Every season is a little bit of a trying to pick that nut of what that tempo looks like for the group that we have, and then we'll set up parameters using targets, and then we'll get a lot of live reps and just trying to kind of hone that in. You get into, obviously you have multiple setters in your programs, like trying to get that consistent between the 2 setters so that as you're changing, you don't have a big variance from setter to setter, that consistency stays. I don't know if there's a great way to quantify it. I know some coaches want to put a clock on it and a timer and, this is a 1.43 second, set tempo. And I don't think that's a real great way of defining it. For us, we'll typically create targets, put a target where we want the end result. We'll put some targets in between that they have to set over. So it's not just this ball that's firing through the zone. But then a lot of live reps and just getting comfortable. And we really encourage the communication from setter to hitter and back, because I think the results in our sport don't always dictate kind of the process, meaning that we could run everything perfectly and not get a kill or even have an error. But we want to make sure that they're on the same page, that they know, hey, that was the right thing. That's what we're trying to do. just because I took an errant swing at it doesn't mean we need to change things. Or vice versa, that we do set a ball that's not great and our hitters go up and take a swing and score a point. We still want that conversation of, hey, that, you know, things are good there, but hey, let's speed that up. Let's slow that down. Let's keep it in that zone.
Yep. And one of the most common conversations that I have with a lot of high school coaches is they want to run speed. And we've got to – speed is great. We all love speed. But if you're listening to this, effectiveness is what we care about. And here you got the University of Texas with some shape on the ball, with some of the best athletes in the country competing for a national title. And they need to put some air under that ball to allow their athletes to go up and take big swings. And I'm assuming that's the case with all these teams. And so don't force speed. Certainly we like it when it's the appropriate time. And the other part of this conversation is, when do we run speed and when do we just want to take a nice rip? And so, you know, Erik's talking about communication, calling the right set given the appropriate situation. And so, you know, those would be my two big tips. With this particular topic is just don't force it. The main goal is to get a good rip and to have your best hitters get as many effective swings as they possibly can. So,
hey, can I make this comment real quick?
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, we're trying to run our offense to create some space in our opponent's defense, in the block as well as the back row. And so one way is speed. It obviously puts some pressure on the middles. It allows some space in between the blockers. But we're also very cognizant of, you know, if we have a kid that touches 10-5, we want her playing around 10-5. And if so, we're running speed and all of a sudden we get her game down to 10 feet. I know that sounds like that's a first world problem for us. You know, if we're taking 3 or 4 inches off of their physicality just because we want to run tempo, we don't think we're doing right by the athletes that we have in the gym and the system we're trying to run. So it's a little bit of a combination of that. How fast can we go? How high can we keep our athletes playing at their kind of maximum athletic ability?
Yep. A great example, Jalen, is, you know, when you guys were coaching Taylor, I mean, geez, messing around with what does his tempo look like? And here's a guy that flies and just he needs some air under the ball. But I know Chris had mentioned that there's a pretty substantial amount of time seeing how fast we can get him the ball. And it turns out that he's just better. He's just more effective when he does have a little air under that ball.
Yeah, it was everyone used to joke he used to just hit the ball better off of me because I would just set it tight and high and it'll just allow him to go get it. But I think it almost seems like everyone tries to go fast and then you kind of, I guess, regress to the mean to a degree. For us, I know here at Nebraska, we're really, compared to Gary at Wisconsin and Erik at Texas, we're very slow compared to some of these other teams. So, but yeah, no, I think the Erik hit on the head there where you want to create stress or holes in the defense, but at the same time, you don't want to do it at the detriment of your athletes, especially your attackers.
Awesome. Dave, let's jump to the next one.
Erik, question for you. It seemed like you guys were setting the ball a little bit tighter to your left than what I remember in previous years. Was that something you guys are trying to do a little bit more? I know Taylor was talking about setting it tight for Taylor, so it's just something as we were watching you guys this year. It just seems like Skylar and Logan were about 2 feet off the net, where some setters are more 3 to 4 feet off.
Yeah, that's program secrets, man. I can't be divulging that kind of information. We do, in some situations, set the ball a little tighter, and we're training our athletes to use their physicality and go up and challenge the block at the edges, trying to get comfortable recycling the ball if, you know, the ball ends up being a little tighter than we want. More systematic than player-driven. So not, you know, hey, this player's up there, throw it up there 50-50 and see what happens. We're trying to do some stuff systematically across the board.
Which one of you is going to introduce the 100% power tipping offense first? All front row players.
Depends on how fast the officials legislate their way out of it.
Depends who's reffing.
All right, Dave, we got to bounce.
Hey, Jalen, real quick, Luke asked us on Facebook, will you address this? What keys do you give a setter who's learning a second step tempo set?
What keys?
Correct.
Well,
or just training it, just real quick. How would you suggest training it in just a couple seconds?
Well, I think reps are important. I think getting them the understanding of with speed comes sometimes some deviation in location. So I think if you're trying to be perfect all the time running it with speed, it's gonna, you're gonna miss a little inside. And I think giving them places where they can miss. So, wide is probably never a good thing. We're not huge fans of you're trying to run with speed. If you miss off and inside or off and wide is bad. So just giving them spots where they can miss, I think is important, just because, especially when you're starting to train somebody, I don't think any setter is going to be able to locate with speed, especially when they're starting. So I think if they feel like there's this big area that they have to set the ball into, I think it's easier to start to learn versus, making this little hole where they have to set it every single time.
Okay. Thanks, Luke, for the question. Everyone else watching out there, send your questions in. We want to help you as much as we can.